Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another thrilling episode of Tim Tom's Film Nights. Today we are delving into the dark and Gothic world of The Crow, which is quite an interesting film if you ask me. Thomas here seems to disagree, but more on that later. Before we dive in, let's quickly recap last week's episode.
Oh, stop it with all the formalities, Timothy. We both know our viewers are here for the banter. Anyway, I must say I quite enjoyed The Crow. It was dark and moody, just the way I like my film. Brandon Lee did an incredible job playing the protagonist, who seeks vengeance after being murdered by a gang.
Well, Thomas, if you enjoy watching someone dressed up as the Riddler from Batman going around killing people, then more power to you. I must admit, though, that Brandon Lee does have quite the presence on screen. However, the plot was just too convoluted for my liking. It felt like they were trying to cram in every cliché and trope from every superhero film ever made. And what was up with those horrible makeup effects? They looked like something you'd find in a Halloween store in 1990.
Oh, come on, Timothy. Don't be such a stick in the mud. The Crow is an iconic film, and its unique visual style adds to the overall atmosphere. Plus, who can resist a good revenge story? Now tell me, what did you think of the acting performances?
Well, besides Brandon Lee's unique fashion choices, I thought the rest of the cast was quite mediocre at best. Sure, they delivered their lines with conviction, but there was just no depth or nuance in their performances. They all seemed like cardboard cutouts walking around on screen.
You're such a curmudgeon sometimes, Tim. I thought the acting was spot on for this type of film. And speaking of types of films, how would you categorize The Crow? Is it more of an action movie or a superhero film?
Well, Tom, I suppose it's somewhere in between. It does have elements of both genres, but ultimately it fails to fully embrace either one. It's like trying to make a pizza with just tomato sauce and mozzarella. Sure, it might taste all right, but it doesn't quite hit the spot.
You know what? You're right. The Crow is a cinematic pizza with only tomato sauce and, mozzarella. But, you know what? Sometimes that's exactly what we need in life.
Fine. Now, can we please move on to something less Italian?
Oh, I almost forgot. Speaking of The Crow and pizza, did you know that director Alex Proyas once admitted to sneaking a rather cheeky reference to his favorite Italian dish into the film? If you look closely during one of the scenes in the cemetery, you can clearly see a tombstone with the name Peppino's Pizzeria engraved on it. It's just another little nod to Proyas' love for pizza and Italian cuisine in general.
Well, now, Thomas, that is certainly food for thought. Sorry, couldn't resist. But seriously, I think we beat this dead horse. Oh dear, another poorly timed pun. Anyway, moving on, what do you think about the story's exploration of themes such as revenge and redemption?
Oh, Tim, you know I love a good revenge story, and The Crow delivers it in spades. Nope, can't resist myself. But seriously, though, the theme of revenge is central to the film's plot, as we witness Eric Draven's quest for vengeance against his own killers. However, what makes this story interesting is how it also explores the concept of redemption through the character development of both the protagonist and the antagonists. It raises questions about whether revenge truly brings closure, or whether it ultimately leads to more suffering and chaos.
Well, Thomas, I must say that sounds like an interesting premise for a film, but in practice I found it rather underwhelming. The story felt rushed and disjointed, jumping from one plot twist to another without giving the audience time to properly digest what just happened. And don't get me started on that ridiculous final confrontation between Draven and his true nemesis. It was like something straight out of a Saturday morning cartoon.
Oh, Timothy, you do have a knack for finding the most, grim darkest angle to everything, don't you? But seriously, though, I think what makes The Crow a classic is its ability to balance the themes of revenge and redemption in a way that keeps the audience hooked till the very end. And besides, who doesn't love a good, well-executed final battle scene?
Well, Tom, I suppose we'll just have to agree to disagree on this one. But speaking of disagreements, let's move on to our trivia question for today. In The Crow, what is the name of Brandon Lee's character, and how many fingers am I currently holding up?
Well, I'm glad you finally decided to join us in the world of trivia, Timothy. So let me quiz you first. In The Crow, what is the name of Brandon Lee's character? And how many fingers am I currently holding up?
Brandon Lee's character in The Crow is named Eric Draven. As for your second question. Are those 5 fingers? Yes, I think it's 5 fingers. Well done, Thomas. You got both questions right. Now, let me quiz you with a trivia question of my own. Did you know that in the original comic book series by James O'Barr, which the Crow film was based on, Eric Draven's girlfriend wasn't named Shelley, but rather Sharon?
Oh, Timothy, you do love to show off your vast knowledge of comic books. And yes, it is indeed true that in the original comic book series, Shelley was actually named Sharon. But I must say, I prefer the name change for the film adaptation. Shelley has a much more ethereal, ghostly ring to it, which fits perfectly with the overall tone of the movie. Plus, who doesn't love hearing Brandon Lee whisper Shelley in that sexy, gravelly voice of his?
Sorry, I may have just gone a little off topic there.
You know what, Tom? I think it's time we wrap up this segment and move on to our final question. So here it goes. In The Crow, what was the actual name of the character Brandon Lee portrayed in his final film role?
Well, Tim, I think we have already established that Brandon Lee's character in The Crow is named Eric Draven. However, what many people may not know is that the film was actually based on a 1989 comic book series by James O'Barr. While both the movie and the original comics share similarities, there are also some key differences between them. For example, in the comics, Eric Draven's girlfriend is named Shelley Webb rather than Sharon Tate. The story also delves deeper into Eric's past as a Civil War soldier and his journey to become the Crow. Additionally, the ending of the comic series is quite different from that of the movie, with more focus on redemption and forgiveness rather than revenge. Despite these differences, I personally find both the film and the original comics to be gripping tales of love, loss, and redemption. The storytelling, combined with Brandon Lee's iconic performance as Eric Draven, has solidified The Crow's place in pop culture history. So, Timothy, what do you think? Did you read the comics before watching the movie? What were your thoughts on the differences between the two versions of the story?
Well, Tom, I must admit I did have a chance to flip through some of the comic books before the film came out. But as an avid reader myself, I always find it fascinating how adaptations can breathe new life into established stories. That being said, Brandon Lee's portrayal of Eric Draven in The Crow is truly unmatched. He captured the character's brooding intensity and relentless quest for vengeance perfectly. His chemistry with his on-screen love interest, played by the beautiful and talented Sharon Tate, was appreciable, even through the layers of makeup and prosthetics. However, it's not just Brandon Lee who deserves praise. The supporting cast also delivered top-notch performances. The antagonist, played by the late, great Mike the Crow Watts, brought a chilling menace to his role as the ruthless gang leader. His cold-bloodedness and lack of remorse for his actions made him all the more terrifying. And then there's the scene stealer himself, the mysterious Gothic birdman known only as the Crow, played by a then unknown actor named Edgar Allan Poe. His eerie presence and cryptic guidance throughout the film added an otherworldly element to the already dark narrative. As for the cultural impact of the Crow, it's hard to overstate its influence on goth culture, grunge fashion, and even emo hairstyles in the 90s and beyond. The soundtrack, composed by the legendary Danielle Birdman Dorfman, still holds up today with its the Crow theme, the Raven, and of course I Desire to Fly Away with You. Its themes of a revenge, redemption, love, loss, and ultimately the cycle of life and death resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. And who can forget the iconic final scene where Eric Draven finally finds peace and forgiveness after his long, winding journey through the depths of hell? In conclusion, while The Crow may have its flaws, it's hard to deny the impact it had on cinema and pop culture at large. Brandon Lee's performance as Eric Draven will be remembered for generations to come, solidifying his place in cinematic history alongside Batman and Superman. So, Thomas, do you agree? Do you think I forgot any featherture of the movie, or should we fly over to our next topic?
Well, Timothy, I must admit, you have a knack for making even the most mundane topics sound fascinating. But let's get back to our discussion on The Crow's cultural impact. As we both know, it became an instant cult classic upon its release, and continues to resonate with audiences today. One of the reasons for this enduring appeal is its exploration of timeless themes such as revenge, redemption, love, loss, and the cyclical nature of life and death. These themes have captured the imagination of generations and continue to do so. In terms of fashion, The Crow's influence cannot be understated. Its grunge aesthetic, characterized by ripped jeans, leather jackets, and dark makeup, became synonymous with the 90s goth subculture. And, who can forget Brandon Lee's iconic hairstyle, which was replicated countless times in salons across the globe. But perhaps The Crow's most lasting legacy lies in its soundtrack, composed by the legendary Danny Elmendorf. The film's score and soundtrack are just as iconic as the movie itself. With hits like the Crow theme, The Raven, and I Desire, the music of The Crow continues to inspire new generations of musicians and fans alike. And let's not forget about its impact on literature. The film adaptation was based on a comic book series by James O'Barr, which itself drew inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe's work. This fusion of Gothic horror and romantic poetry has influenced countless authors and artists since then. In conclusion, The Crow is much more than just an action movie or a cult classic. It is a cultural phenomenon that continues to resonate with audiences today. Its themes, fashion, and music have left an indelible mark on popular culture and will continue to do so for years to come. So, Timothy, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment of The Crow's enduring impact on society? Or is there something else that stands out to you about this iconic film?
Well, Tom, I think we've certainly covered quite a lot about this classic film, The Crow. It's hard to deny its impact on pop culture, from fashion to music and even literature. Brandon Lee's portrayal of Eric Draven will forever be remembered as one of the greatest performances in cinematic history. And while the story may have deviated slightly from the original comic book series, it managed to capture the essence of love, loss, revenge, redemption, and ultimately the cyclical nature of life and death.
As for me, personally,
I'll admit that I wasn't initially a fan of the Gothic genre or even Brandon Lee's work in the film. But after giving it a chance, I found myself drawn into this dark and brooding world of revenge and redemption. And who could resist the iconic love story between Eric Draven and his eternal muse, Shelley Sharon Tate? The chemistry between them was appreciable even under layers of makeup and prosthetics. But all jokes aside, I think we've reached the end of our journey through this Gothic masterpiece. So, Tom, what are your final thoughts on The Crow? Do you agree with me that it's a timeless classic that will continue to resonate with audiences for generations to come? Or perhaps you believe there were some flaws or plot holes that kept it from reaching the heights of cinematic greatness? Either way, we'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Remember, folks, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful discussions on your favorite films. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. Share it with your friends, family, or that mysterious Gothic birdman lurking in the shadows of your local cemetery.